I think the reason why we are so hesitant about taking risks is because there's a very powerful cultural message that tells us that the outcomes are going to be negative or bad, and we think of the uncertain as the same as dangerous. We lost sight of the fact that uncertainty is also an opportunity, and that sometimes very good things can come out of dealing with uncertainty and sometimes not. And I think it's very much a cultural pessimism that tells us to avoid risk rather than to go out and take it. I think there are many reasons why we're pessimistic. I think one reason is because many of the big historical projects have failed. You know, socialism hasn't worked. Liberals feel very defensive. The free market advocates don't feel very positive about their world. And therefore, we haven't got any vision of the future that people can really believe in. And as a result of that, we tend to live in the present and are scared of opening our eyes to what may happen or what could happen out there in the years ahead. The trouble is that sometimes when you wear the cultural glasses of pessimism, you will see really bad things. But if you want to change the image out there, the way you do it is by looking at children, looking at humanity, looking at our history, and you can begin to realize that actually compared to the problems that people faced 100 years ago, 200 years ago, even 60 years ago, this is very small stuff. And therefore, we're quite entitled to feel confident and optimistic. And that's the big battle in Europe, to counter the culture of pessimism with a culture that believes in the human potential. And once we do that, then I think the problem is solved. I think one of the things that I'm really concerned about is that we've adopted an attitude that problems are always interpreted from the worst possible scenario. So instead of saying that's one possibility, that's the worst case, but there's also what we expected as a good possibility, we always think that the worst case is what's normal. And it seems to me that when we do that, then we inflate every problem into a question of existence. We communicate a sense of alarmism about fairly ordinary problems. And we end up with a political regime which holds us back all the time. We're always scared to move ahead. And particularly, we're scared about going forward into a future of uncertainty. Well, at the moment, most people I know think that the future is going to be worse than the present. And if you think that, that's definitely what will happen. But you see, the future is not something that is absolute. It's not like, God said, my children, that's the future, nothing you can do about it. The one thing we can change is the future. We cannot change the past, that's impossible. And sometimes it's difficult to change the moment. But the future is something that we've always been able to transform and alter. And I think if we begin to think like that, then we can decide today what kind of future we want, and we can come close to that ideal. We might not accomplish everything, but if we know what we want, we will move in that right direction.